Arsenal are Champions League semi-finalists for the first time since 2009, and they've achieved that by winning twice, not once, twice, against Real Madrid. This is the Arsenal Unfiltered match review podcast of Arsenal 2, Real Madrid 1 in the Bernabeu. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. I usually at this point say I really hope you're well, but I presume if you are listening to this podcast, you are an Arsenal fan, which means you are on cloud 9 right now. It is 7:41 in the morning after possibly the most impressive Arsenal performance I think I have ever watched in 30 years of being an Arsenal fan. I am blown away by what we watched last night. Not just the fact that we won, not just the 2 incredible finishes from our star wingers, but from the all-round contribution of players like Declan Rice, Mikel Arteta, Jurrien Timber, and the resilience we showed as well to have 2 moments of real adversity and come through and still win. I will be getting into all of that across this podcast. First of all, I do just want to say a little admin thing. I'm not in my usual recording space. I really have no idea how this is going to sound. I really have no idea if you're going to hear extra noises in the background. To be honest, I'm in my car. I'm in my car in a car park down south, way away from where I usually record. And I could have waited and tried to find a recording space maybe tomorrow or something like that. But with what happened yesterday, it couldn't wait, could it? It absolutely couldn't wait. I had to get this out. Had to bring you a podcast. So I do apologise if there are any audio issues on this episode. I also just want to say a very big welcome and thank you to you, those of you who are listening from Spain, Ireland and the Czech Republic. We've had listeners come in from those countries a lot over April, so if you are a listener from there, I really appreciate you engaging with Arsenal Unfiltered. If you're a listener from anywhere, but those guys in particular, because we've seen a real spike in those countries listening to the podcast this month. Okay, let's talk about it then, because it is a historic night for Arsenal. I wanted to start with a kind of general overview before we go into more of the game and talk about the specifics. This is Arsenal returning to the very top table, wasn't it? Because last week there was a feeling of, wow, that's an impressive result, but Real Madrid, they weren't on it last week. Every big team can go through that. Every super team can go through that. So people were saying, well, Real Madrid aren't on it, and it's only half time. And I think the Real Madrid players and the Arsenal players reflected that actually, Real Madrid were disappointed, but they've got another game to go. Then Arsenal were elated, but they've got another game to go. Of course, the story was the remontada, the possibility for the comeback that all the Real Madrid players were talking about. And of course, the English media did what they did, found a story that they knew would get clicks, talking about a Real Madrid comeback and supporting the algorithms on certain websites that really love that kind of stuff that's going to ensue a bit of hate, but also ensue that kind of ability to point fingers and say, haha, look at Arsenal, they've won 3-0, celebrated too much, and now they're out in the second leg. We didn't have any of that last night. There wasn't really a sniff for Real Madrid. I thought there was a real possibility that we turn up, Real Madrid get the first goal, and this is a nervous game. Even if we'd still gone through, I think that would have been a negative way of doing it. I think 3-1 at half time would have felt really nervous, and even like a 3-2 victory or a 3-3 and winning on penalties, I think a lot of people go, oh, Arsenal kind of choked it a little bit there, and they don't look as assured over a 2-leg game as they do in a 1-leg game, and that'll be an issue. But we really didn't give them anything, did we? And I'm so happy on a number of fronts. One, I'm so happy for Arsenal and the players and the manager and just the fans, everyone involved in the club. I think we deserve this. I think we deserve moments like this. We've taken a lot of stick in the past decade, basically, and it's so nice to see our club go back to where it belongs. And we really should be talking about the job Mikel Arteta's done, and I'm sure that will be a big topic in the summer that I come to discuss in more detail when there is no football on. The job Mikel Arteta's done, the players that he's got, the players like Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka leading from the very front. So there's that aspect of why this is an important night. There's the aspect that, the talk sports and the Twitter accounts, they're going to be pretty quiet this morning, let me tell you that. They are going to be pretty quiet because Arsenal have not only got through, but they've won both legs. They've won both legs against Real Madrid. And talk about Real Madrid not being on it for one game. That's fine. I can understand that. All big teams have bad days. And I can understand that as a reason for why people were looking at Arsenal and going, well, you're not done yet. You've got a lot to do. Real Madrid are an absolute super team. They could turn you over. They didn't. Not even close to it. We won both legs. And over 180 minutes, I don't think you can say, oh, well, Real Madrid just never showed up. They didn't show up because we didn't let them. And I think that is the huge thing about this for me, is that all of those accounts will be so quiet and we'll have nothing to talk about today. They won't be able to say, oh yeah, Arsenal were okay, but Real Madrid were just really bad and that's why you won. They'll have none of that. Absolutely none of that. This will be a resounding moment for Arsenal in the season. And all of a sudden, I think we are looking at a position where, I'm not going to tempt fate, I'm not going to say we might win it, but we are in a position where our season has gone and turned around in the space of basically a week and a bit, from this is really not feeling great to, oh my God, what a chance we have this season now. Everything has been negative this season, everything's been bad, and Mikel Arteta's held stern on this kind of really good attitude around, we've got to keep going, we've got to keep playing, we're not out of it until we're out of it. And that, he deserves a huge amount of credit for maintaining that culture. Let's get into it then. Let's do the game a little bit, and let's talk about Real Madrid first of all, and what we did to stop them, because they had a very, very weird attacking plan, didn't they? They didn't really try and get in between the lines, if you ask me. I thought they would employ Bellingham far more as like a number 10, or maybe not even Bellingham, maybe dropping, well, you could have moved Modric up into that spot, couldn't you? I know he didn't start, but that could have been an option. Bellingham playing in the number 10 would have worked. They could have even played Dani Ceballos in midfield and got him kind of drifting into those spaces. It was very weird that they didn't have a number 10 trying to get in between the lines. Instead, what they did was they tried to cross the ball. And I'm just confused by it. I think they attempted something like 42 crosses, 7 were successful. Don't quote me on that one, because that really is a stat that I'm just picking out of the back of my brain from a post that I've seen earlier, I think. Yeah. I don't get it. I really don't get it, because against William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior, they weren't going to get any change out of crossing the ball to Mbappe and Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo. So I thought that was very odd. Very, very odd. What it did do, and what I thought was clever, was it did mean that we were dropping very, very deep. And I think probably the idea, of course it did not work, but I think probably the idea would have been, let's keep crossing, let's keep bombarding them, let's keep putting the ball into a danger zone, making things difficult for Arsenal, keep them deep, and we'll get a second ball, it'll recycle to one of our players, and we can go from there. And I think that's probably the way they were looking at it, because at times Thomas Partey, sometimes even Declan Rice, they were pulled right back onto the toes of William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior, trying to defend these barrage of Real Madrid crosses that were coming in. And they did that so well. It was such an ineffective tactic. And the key thing that we did was, when we did defend those crosses and when we got our heads to it first, we sprung so quickly. Mars Lewis-Skelly, Jurrien Timber and Declan Rice. Thomas Partey tried, bless him, but he's not quite an athlete like those guys are. They just launched out from that deep spot, and they made a really, really good job of it. And I was so impressed with how they worked, everything that they did. That's basically, I think, how we stopped Real Madrid from generating waves and waves and waves of attack, by their energy, that by their dynamism. And there were times where, we won the header, we cleared it, and we got out and got on the ball and instantly turned it back over. That wasn't great. And I think that happened more in the first half than the second half. Second half, we were a little bit better, a little bit more careful with it when we did burst out and win it, and we were clever about winning fouls and winning free kicks. It was a wily performance. It wasn't dark arts, because I don't think we were nasty. I think Real Madrid were pretty nasty. That video has obviously come out with Carvajal going at Saka as he walks down the tunnel for half time. What a prick, by the way. But, Real Madrid were trying all the tricks in the book. But we were just clever. There was a particular moment where we'd broken down the left. We went inside to Saka, and he just got himself across Alaba and earned what was always going to be a free kick. There was no doubt in my mind, no doubt in the referee's mind. And, it was a great moment just to show how we were managing the game, managing the situation, getting free kicks, silencing the crowd. I did a whole preview pod on how do we silence the crowd. And I spoke about, we can't be afraid. We've got to go and at least have the message of try to score, impose threat. Don't give them the opportunity to just dominate the game and dominate everything that we do. And we did that. We did that in obviously we did score the first goal, but we also had them where we wanted them in terms of that kind of game management. And that's something I didn't think about in terms of the how do you silence the crowd. Well, you get free kicks. You make life difficult for Real Madrid. You almost make it intolerable for the fans to watch. And that is what we did. It was really, really impressive. Of course, two big moments of the two penalties. Now I'm going to come out and say it. Neither of those are penalties. I don't think. The Arsenal one. Look, he is kind of pulled down, but I think the ball is a pretty long way away from him. If I'm remembering it correctly, I am in a bit of a daze and haven't watched it back. But yeah, I think it is a fair way away from him, and I don't know. It's one of those weird ones where I think I'm glad we got it, but obviously, if it was against Arsenal, I'd be saying, well, he's never getting to that ball. So how can you give a penalty if he's never getting to that ball? But we did get it, of course, and Bukayo Saka did something I've never seen him do. We've seen him miss penalties. You think about the West Ham one, obviously the terrible one for England. I don't mean terrible as in it was a terrible penalty. I mean the terrible scenario that ensued after it with the hate that he received very, very unduly. I've seen him miss penalties. I've never seen him try something quite showboaty, I think, almost. Well, it is showboaty, isn't it? It's a Panenka. He didn't look like he was fully committed to it either. And yeah, really weird moment. Courtois has to make a big reach to get to it, but he's huge. It's for him that makes a lot of that save is very, very makeable. And Bukayo Saka never really committed to what he was doing. I thought it was a really strange penalty, a strange moment to do it in, but pressure does weird things, even to the best players in the world, like Bukayo Saka as one of the best wingers in the world. Pressure does weird things to. I have to say, I think the resilience he showed to go and perform the way he did for the rest of the game, he didn't put his head down, he just got on with his job, and boy, did he complete his job later in the game. We'll come on to that. Of course, the Real Madrid penalty is an absolute shocker. It's a clear dive from Mbappe. They were he tried to book Declan Rice for this, so Declan Rice would have missed the next game. Of course, Thomas Partey has been booked, so will miss the first leg against PSG. That feels like a disaster. And it was for something so silly and so wasteful. So, when the euphoria dies, I think we'll look back on that and go, God, that's a really stupid moment, a real blemish on this tie. But Declan Rice, obviously, he said in the post-match interview, yeah, I've got my arm on him, but I'm not holding him, I'm not pulling him down. Mbappe so clearly dives, he turns his body and flings himself to the floor. We knew that this was what Real Madrid were going to do. We knew they were going to throw themselves to the ground, whistle for everything, jeer for everything, I should say. And this was the perfect example. This is dark arts. People talk about Arsenal doing dark arts. Watch Kylian Mbappe dive in this game and nearly get a penalty. That is the dark arts. But luckily, after 5 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know why that took 5 minutes. Lunacy, to be honest. Absolute lunacy. It's as clear as day. And to be honest, usually I'm watching these games and my nerves are shot. And my nerves were very, very high last night. But when that penalty happened and when I was watching the replays, I was like, we're fine. Like, that is 100% going to get overturned. That is exactly what VAR is for. And even sort of 4 or 5 minutes in, when the VAR check still hadn't quite come to a close, I was like, this is okay. They're not going to be this moronic. And they weren't. We got the penalty overturned, rightly so. I don't think anyone can argue with that. And we ended the first half 0-0. Very, very tense. Very tense. But 0-0 at half time. I think if you'd offered me that, I would have snapped your hand off. And I was so impressed with the performance. Like I say, tactically, Real Madrid set up to cross and try and create many, many ways of attack and try and keep us in and stop us doing what we do really, really well, which is transition. And I think for me, what they didn't bank on was the energy and the ability we have in our midfield to get out and win second balls. I don't think they really thought about that enough, and that's what we ended up doing. I remember an interview from, I think it was Ruben Amorim or maybe Marco Silva, about playing against Arsenal, and they said, look, we were in a low block today. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't how we came to play. We just ended up in that position. And that, I think, is a really, really interesting quote, because when you think about this game and you think about how Real Madrid wanted to play, I think they wanted to suffocate Arsenal. I think they wanted to keep us in, and that's why they kept going wide, crossing it, and thinking they'd pick up some second balls. But they weren't able to play like that, simply because Arsenal was so good at getting out, being dynamic, moving forward and winning the second ball. Declan Rice was superb in that respect. I think we did it to another team, really. They had a plan and they weren't able to implement their plan in any way, shape or form because we were so good. And we were so adaptable as well. I don't think this was our plan. I don't think the way we played was our plan, but I think Mikel Arteta has taught these players, actually, you can't play football in ones and zeros and plugging in, it's not American football. You can't plug in a set play and go, cool, that'll work. As much as Nicolas Jova, I'm sure, would love to. You can't do that. You've got to adapt to the scenario around you. I think we did a really good job. I'm going to take a very short break. When I come back, I'm going to discuss the goals. I'm going to discuss the star performers, stars and underpars, probably the best stars and underpars I'm ever going to do. So excited for that. And yeah, back in a moment. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're like me, you finished watching an Arsenal game and you're already looking for the next bit of Arsenal coverage you can find. If that sounds like you, follow or subscribe to Arsenal Unfiltered on your podcast app of choice right now to make sure you don't miss a single episode from me. I'm here 3 times a week, reviewing matches and covering Arsenal news, and I'm so excited to have you all here as well. Thank you very much. Welcome back to this match review podcast of Arsenal 2, Real Madrid 1. I still cannot believe that I am saying it 18 minutes into this podcast. I still can't believe what we did last night. Let's go on to the goals, and I think we're obviously going to talk Bukayo Saka. We're obviously going to talk Gabriel Martinelli, but someone who needs a big shout out for both of these goals, before we go on to the goal scorers, is Mikel Merino. 2 perfect passes. Absolutely perfect. Both very similar, down that kind of left-hand side of the penalty area, needs a perfect weight, needs a perfect angle, I would say, for both of the players to run onto. And what a player. What a player we've got on our hands there. I really do think we all need to kind of eat some humble pie and eat our words a little bit. I probably haven't got in quite as hard on the summer transfer business as some other podcasts and some other Arsenal media have. People have spoken about Calafiori and Mikel Merino being a terrible summer transfer window. I've not gone that hard, but I have certainly said at times, I'm not sure what I'm seeing from Mikel Merino. My position has always been Calafiori, get it, think he needs a pre-season. Mikel Merino, I'm not 100% certain. You've really got to say the way he's playing at the moment, I was dead wrong about that man. He is scoring goals and making goals, and to vital assists and really high quality assists in this game really bring him firmly into Arsenal folklore now. That Thierry Henry goal in the Bernabeu so long ago is replayed over and over and over. Every time you talk with an Arsenal fan about their favourite Arsenal moments or their favourite Arsenal goals, that one's right up there. Mikel Merino has just been involved in two goals that will probably go down as really, really significant goals, similar to that Thierry Henry goal. Let's talk Bukayo Saka. It's a great move from Arsenal up the right, and then we move it across, and Bukayo Saka's run from the right-hand side over to that central left area is really, really intelligent. Like I say, it's a fantastic ball for Mikel Merino, but this goal is about the finish. Let me tell you that. Wow. For a fella, and I said this before, I said this earlier in the podcast, the resilience he showed is just really, really impressive in that moment to go again and score a goal of this quality after missing a penalty. But not only that, he tried to chip the keeper with the penalty, and he does chip the keeper right now. Incredible. If he goes through there and goes to chip the keeper and Courtois gets on it, the story is about, Bukayo Saka tries to showboat twice, doesn't work either time, what an arrogant young man. That's what they would say. That is what the papers would do. That is what Jason Cundy and Twatty O'Hara would do on TalkSport, right? That is their mandate. They like to take people who are doing a great job, doing fantastically well, who have a personality, and they like to bring them down. What Bukayo Saka did was he stepped up, right? He stepped up in the most crucial moment, failed, and went again and used the same technique because he knew what was right in the moment. That is maturity and composure on the highest level. The technical ability is insane. Courtois is huge. He is a huge goalkeeper with a huge wingspan. To lift it over him at that angle was just breathtaking. And I could not believe what I was seeing. Arsenal were 1-0 up in the Bernabeu thanks to a Bukayo Saka goal. A goal made in our academy by a player from our academy. That is so special. So special. And I believe Bukayo Saka has appeared in the Champions League 7 times this year and scored 5 goals and 2 assists. Tell me he's not world class. Tell me he is not one of the best right wingers in the world. The conversation was always like, Salah's way ahead, but then the next list is Saka and Rodrigo. I mean, what a silly comparison that looks like now. So Saka obviously that's around the 65th minute. Mikel Merino, Bukayo Saka, a lot of players involved in that move. And then an inexplicable moment from William Saliba. David Raya gives him the ball, and it's like he doesn't know that Vinny Jr. is there. I think he's looking at Mbappe, trying to figure out how he's going to go around him, and Vinny Jr. just sneaks up on him. This is not a moment that you ever see from William Saliba. And I go back to what I said about the Saka penalty. Never seen him showboat before. Pressure does weird things to even the best players in the world. And this was a moment where William Saliba, I think he would have wanted to, if he could have done, he would have wanted to hang his head and maybe go back into the dressing room and go, what have I done? Because it felt like the game was done on the Bukayo Saka goal. The tie was over, and all of a sudden we were back to where we were just beforehand. And obviously the Bernabeu got quite loud at that moment. Quite loud. Apologies. Got quite loud, and it was a real worry for me. 67 minutes he scored on. They didn't have much time left, but they had some time left. And you just never know. You just never know with Real Madrid. Something bizarre could have happened. So I was nervous, but it wasn't an uncontrollable nervousness. I felt like, okay, we can still be fine here. And of course we were. Real Madrid started throwing players at the game. Endrick came on. Ceballos came on. That Garcia at left back came on to try and add more attacking threat. Those three couldn't really do too much. Of course, Modric came on. Mbappe came off after he got a knock for Brahim Diaz. So Real Madrid went for all of their subs before we even touched one of ours, which I thought was a real you could see how the game had gone for them. They were not happy with what was going on and how things had developed. The moment of the game, though, is that Gabriel Martinelli goal for me. And I said this at the start. We came through 2 moments of absolute madness. The penalty miss and the William Saliba moment, right? We came through that, and we could have shut up shop at the point of sort of 80 minutes and gone, this tie's done, we're fine. And we were a little bit more defensive, of course we were. We were being clever. But Gabriel Martinelli's desire to go and win the game in the 90th minute, in the last moments of the game, the dying embers, his desire to go from where he was basically stood was basically a right back position, and he launched upfield. And that is the Gabriel Martinelli that we fell in love with when he first joined the club. Electric pace, brilliant inside of the foot finishing. And like I said before, Mikel Merino plays the perfect pass. The Real Madrid defender cannot keep up with Gabriel Martinelli. He's not got a hope in hell of keeping up with him. Martinelli just strides away from him, and it's an incredible finish. And I just want to say a moment for Martinelli and the mentality, because I really do think at 4-1 in the tie, it would have been easy to go, I'm not going after that. I'll let Mikel just kind of wander it up the pitch and we'll get a free kick and that's fine. But he saw an opportunity to go and win the game. And as Mikel Arteta and all the players have been saying for weeks, to go and make history. And that is exactly what he did. It was incredible. An incredible run, an incredible finish. And I think, 2 victories against Real Madrid over 2 ties will take us further than just a 4-1 on aggregate victory. There is going to be a confidence, a feeling in that camp right now that they can go and win the Champions League. And let's talk about this just before we go on to stars and under pars, though I don't think there'll be many under pars again. Can we win the Champions League? Can we do it? That is the question that is on my mind. I'm sure it's on your mind. We have shown that we can beat the best. Now, PSG, I've watched them a couple of times this year. I watched them obviously against us. I watched them against Liverpool. And I watched a little bit of their game against Villa. They're good. I think they are a better outfit this year than Real Madrid are. Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Dembele, that Desiree Doué that they've got as well. Those 4 are incredible players. And Vitinha and João Neves in the midfield, also brilliant passers of the ball. I think it will be more of a challenge in the semi-final. But why not? We've got to be able to dream. We've got to be able to think about these things. You're in the semi-final of any competition. You're going to believe that you can win it. And I think we have earned that feeling. We've earned that right to say, actually, we do have a chance. Now, I've seen it going around. The Opta supercomputer has us as favourites. I'm not sure I quite buy into that tag. If it was me, I'd probably put Barcelona as the favourites. And that is, maybe a bit unfair to Inter, because I haven't seen Inter play as much as I would like this year. With the fact that we're going into this 4-team semi-final situation with them, I just think Barcelona have that extra edge. They have Lewandowski, they have Rafinha, who has been brilliant this year. I think they have the edge in that tie. And I think Arsenal have probably the edge against PSG. So I can see a repeat of the 2006 final, Arsenal versus Barcelona. Like I mentioned last time, that would happen on my stag do. So I am terrified and excited in equal measures about that. So fingers crossed we get there. Can we win it? I think we can, but it's still a tall order. So let's enjoy right now. Let's enjoy the fantastic feeling of beating Real Madrid. And I do think we will give PSG an incredibly difficult scenario to get through, and I would back us to get to the final. From there, I really don't know. So I think we will get to the final for sure. Not for sure, touch wood. Let's just make sure I don't jinx anything. I think we will get to the final. We've got good odds to get into the final. I think we can beat that PSG team. They have vulnerability, as they proved against Villa. The final is a one-off event, though, and I think against a team like Barcelona, who I would be predicting to be the other side of that final, you just never know. They have history, they have pedigree, they have Rafinha, they have an incredible style and team. I just think there are a lot of game winners in that team. You really never ever know. Let's do stars and under pars. It's all stars. Let's put that out there. I'm gonna go. Well, I think there's the most obvious one, which is Declan Rice. I mean, a towering performance from that man. 2 goals in the first leg, 2 unbelievable free kicks. But as he has shown all year round, Well, no, not all year round. Since he kind of got his fitness back, I'd say he is the leader and the engine of our team. An incredible player, an incredible athlete, someone who will take responsibility for everything, and he will basically do anything or do everything, right? If he feels that the team need us to drive into the box a bit more, beat a man, he'll go and do it. If he feels the team need a recovery run, he's the man who does it. If he feels the team need to sit in and batter down the hatches, he's the first man into a tackle. He is a leader of the elite level, and he said at the end of the game that he has super faith in Mikel Arteta and where Mikel Arteta's leading this team. And you can see that in how he plays. He is so committed to absolutely everything. I bloody love Declan Rice. I think he is so good as a player, but also as a leader and a man in that dressing room. So really impressed with his performance. I think there's, as I said before, there's a word for Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. The goals, the finishes, the resilience from Bukayo Saka, the work rate from Gabriel Martinelli. There's a word for Mikel Merino for his 2 assists. Obviously, absolutely fantastic. But the one player I want to give another star to is Jakub Kiwior. Jakub Kiwior. I said in the very first leg preview pod, I don't want him in the team. I want Ben White in there, I want Timber in there, and I want Saliba in there. And I thought, play your very, very best players in your biggest games. That's what I wanted. I wanted Ben White at right back. I wanted Saliba at left centre-back. I wanted Timber at right centre-back. Jakub Kiwior has made me look like a right mug. Two performances of, I'm not going to say like the highest level, because actually I think what he was asked to do in this leg was like defend crosses, which was kind of weird. But I think more than his performance, I want to talk about his composure, because he's come into the team to replace potentially player of the season Gabriel Magalhaes, and that could really get on your back. That could really get on your back, knowing that no one really wants you there. They want you. They wish you were someone else. In probably the biggest game of your life, they wish you were someone else. And Kiwior has shown a composure across these 2 legs of just like, that's fine. I know how good I am. The gaffer knows how good I am. I'm going to step up against the best attack in the world and produce a really solid defensive performance. So I think, yes, his football has been good, and he's played some really good passes across the 2 legs, made some great blocks, great interceptions, great tackles. But for me, the number one most impressive trait that Jakub Kiwior has shown across these last 2 legs is that self-belief, that confidence, that ability to get on with his game. And I think he deserves massive credit for that. I think Mikel Arteta deserves massive credit for that. Keeping everyone involved. Jakub Kiwior has barely played a Premier League minute until recently, and now he's able to step in our biggest game for what, decade? Maybe more. I'm trying to think. It felt like a humongous game. I think it's probably 15 years maybe since that's probably our biggest game. So look, that's an incredible endorsement of Jakub Kiwior and his abilities. Mikel Arteta deserves huge credit for everything that he's done to keep the group involved and keep people present and engaged. And I think the final star performance is Mikel Arteta himself. Tactically over the 2 legs, absolutely bossed Carlo Ancelotti, which not many managers do. So impressive from Mikel Arteta, but also to manage the scenario, manage the situation. And I saw a great post the other day. When Mikel Arteta first got us into the Europa League, we went out to Olympiacos in the round of 32. We've just beaten Real Madrid to reach the Champions League semi-final. An incredible turnaround in our fortunes, an incredible turnaround in the club culture, in the club performances. We are the last English team left in it, and that is thanks to Mikel Arteta. He has, I will probably do a big old deep dive podcast onto Mikel Arteta's time at Arsenal in the summer, and he has just revolutionised our club, hasn't he? He's revolutionised it. So yeah, I think we can win. I think we can win the Champions League. It will be tight. We obviously need to get through PSG, but I think we will, and we need to then win in a straight shootout game, probably against Barcelona, in my opinion. No disrespect to Inter. I want to just finally bring this podcast to a close with just a comment about the community at the moment, of just how great it feels to be an Arsenal fan. And that's in amongst all the idiots talking rubbish about Martin Odegaard and all the people who, were Mikel Arteta out, and then suddenly now we're winning, Mikel Arteta in. Let's forget those guys. Let's talk about the Arsenal fans who are really revelling in this and enjoying this and believing in the team. It's a wonderful community to be a part of at the moment. People texting me at full time last night talking about how proud they are to be an Arsenal fan, and I am so proud to be an Arsenal fan right now, looking at the team that we have and Mikel Arteta doing his job and everything that's going on. I think it is probably it's going to be up there with one of my favourite memories of being an Arsenal fan. I think in the 2000s it was almost expected, but now we've gone so long without nights like last night and nights like the first leg, and we've gone so long without Champions League semi-finals and big ties and the potential of winning huge competitions. We've gone so long without it. Now that it's come back and been brought back to us by Mikel Arteta and this group of players, it really means the world to those of us who have been here through all of that struggle, through the 2 8th place finishes, through the consistent fourths under Arsene Wenger, through the ridicule we've taken. And I really hope, it might not be this year, it might not be, we have to accept that, but I really hope within the next 2 years there is a big, big trophy on Mikel Arteta's mantelpiece, because he deserves a Premier League or a Champions League. Let's hope we get a Champions League this year. The club has never done that, and that is a stain on our kind of club history. It's a stain on our feeling as a club. We need to right that, and we could do it this year. I think we've got a good chance. So let's hope that we do, but it's just a fantastic community to be a part of right now. People who have followed Arsenal for a very long time, who have supported, who have gone to games when we were rubbish, who've gone to games when we were overplaying players and under rewarding fans and stuff like that. I hope you feel like you're getting some reward right now after nights like last night. A truly incredible night. And I don't think a podcast will ever be able to sum up the feelings we all felt yesterday. I don't think it will ever be able to capture what we watched. But I have done my best this morning, so I am going to leave it there. As I mentioned before, I don't know how this one's going to have sounded, so I do apologise if it sounds a bit weird, not in my usual recording space. And I'm going to really try to get a podcast out after this weekend's game against Ipswich. I believe that is Sunday. I really should check things like that before I start podcasts. Yes, Sunday at 2 p.m. So hopefully we will get another good result there. I'm sure it won't be quite the same level of energy as it was in the Bernabeu, but hopefully we get another good game there, and I will find a way to cover that for you guys as well. So yeah, really, really exciting time to be an Arsenal fan. Really enjoyed last night. You just cannot beat a night like that. I hope you enjoyed it well, and I hope and I hope wherever you are happy and healthy. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for following. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.